Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming and spending this time with me. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm so excited to be able to share a little bit about resilience. We're going to be talking about what it is, how to build it, and how we can all grow in resilience together. I'll be telling you a little bit about myself and the stuff that I've had to overcome. We've all had to overcome stuff, so there's probably a lot of things in here that you've already may have heard, but what I'm hoping is that you at least take away one thing, something different, or it incites something new that you hadn't thought about. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to start off with a poll question. Poll question number 1. What do you think the definition of resilience is? I don't know if I can see the poll when I'm sharing my screen, so y'all have to let me know if it's up.
How about now?
I don't see it.
I don't see it. Uh-oh. Oh no. Sorry everyone. Diane, where's our poll? Somebody said it came up when they first logged on, but now we can't see it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to keep it, and hopefully we can work on the next one that's coming up. Resilience, that's what this is about. Yes, okay.
Nicole, it looked like it was up when people logged in, so they already had answered it.
Oh, okay.
But if you,
so we have
if you click on poll again, it should show up, so.
Interesting. I don't see it, but that's okay. I'm going to just keep going forward. So you had an opportunity to choose between whichever one answered what you thought it was. And the answer is, it was like A, B, C, D. According to Merriam-Webster, resilience is the capability of a strained body to recover its size and shape after deformation caused especially by compressive stress. It is, who has stress? Anybody? Anybody going to? Okay. It's also an ability to recover or adjust easily to misfortune or change. Change, our favorite word. Yes. All right. So I'm going to go to the next poll question. Here's what I am interested in knowing. What do you believe your level of resilience is? There it is. Yay. What do you believe your level of resilience is? Oh, look at those answers coming in, and woohoo, they're going, they're going. We have 80%, okay. Nice. Okay, so look at that. A lot of you all bounce back like a ball. Very, very good. Very good. I like the flowing ribbon one. That is beautiful. I love it. I love it. Okay, let me see. I guess I'll share that stuff. Okay, so you all see that. Okay. So that was more an idea for you to just kind of understand where you are and how you tend to respond to change. I have this really fun, well, I mean, fun might be a strong word, but it's a resilience quiz, actually. And this is going to be in the materials that I'm going to be sending in the email that sends the recap of all sorts of links and the things that we're going to be talking about. But it's really great because it really asks you a lot of questions about yourself, and then you can take the answers and figure out how resilient you are. And the great thing about that is you can take that and as a starting point, know where you're going to move in order to build your resilience level. Okay, here we go. Being able to adapt and change with circumstances is vital for survival in your personal life, in your organization, and in your volunteer program. So with that being said, I want to start off with a little bit about me, okay? So what I like to tell people all the time, like I wrote a book, it's called Game On, and then the very first chapter, the very first line is life is not fair. And the reason why I do that is because a lot of times I'll be talking with people and they're like, oh, but it's not fair because this happened, or it's not fair because this happened, or it's not fair because this. Well, guess what? Life just isn't fair. Once we recognize that and understand that, we can now move forward, right? And understand that we have to move forward with the talents and the situations that are given with us and do the best that we can with what we have. Because you sit around talking about life isn't fair, or this person got the promotion, or they overlooked me again, all you're doing is creating stumbling blocks for yourself. When you acknowledge that life isn't fair and you're like, cool, well, this is what I have to work with. What am I going to do with this? That is going to help you to move to the next step. So I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I went to school on a track scholarship. It was the way that I knew that I was going to get my schooling paid for. But I happened to have a coach that didn't really like me very much and would do a lot of things to encourage me to quit the team. But by no means was I quitting, because my end goal, my why, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, is I'm coming out of school debt free. And back then it was like $40,000, $50,000 at a private college. I was like, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to do whatever they are not going to be able to find a reason to take my scholarship away from me. My daughter's father died when she was right about 5 years old. I have been through 2 divorces. I met a wonderful man and fell deeply in love. And then he passed away from colon cancer. I've been a single mom for 23 years. And one of my lifelong goals is to become a professional cheerleader for NFL. And in going after that goal, I have attempted to try out for 23 different sports teams. And I've been rejected from 18 of them. I made 4, but still haven't made the NFL team that I wanted to be on. So I'm still going after it. But all of those things and the heartache that came with all of them taught me a lot of things about resilience. And that is what I'm going to share with you today. So the things we're going to be talking about today that can help you move forward is setting small attainable goals. It's going to help you find your voice. And all of these things have really helped me to become a better manager of volunteers. And it helped me to be able to obtain institutional buy-in, overcome the urge to give up, and help me to find a very strong support system. So let's start with setting small attainable goals. Name one goal that you would like to accomplish within your volunteer program within the next year. Can you drop it in the chat? And then ladies, can you tell me what they're putting in the chat? And then we can, because I want to just use one as an example. I want to choose one and just use it as an example of how we'll do that. Any good ideas so far?
We have diversify my volunteer program.
Okay. Anything else?
We have getting buy-in from staff.
Okay.
Moving application process to online. Find at least one volunteer per event. Oh, I lost it. Per event that's interested in stepping up. Sorry, it moved out of my sight, that question. Because so many people are answering, which is great. Recruiting volunteer groups for each refugee family who arrives here.
Okay.
What else? Let's see. Establishing volunteer coordinator as a paid position.
Okay. Let's go with that one, because okay. All of us trying to get paid, right? So let's go with that. So the thing about this, when we're setting goals and want to see something come to pass, the biggest thing, the reason why setting small goals is important is because if it's a big, huge goal, we tend to look at it and then freak ourselves out and then be like, we bit off more than we could chew. I don't know what I'm doing. Never mind, forget it. And then a year later, we don't know where we are. So in terms of trying to make that position paid, right? That's the end goal. What you would do is set smaller goals. Number one, like, is there somebody in, like, doing research, right, regarding other volunteer other organizations that have volunteers with a similar position that are paid. And number one, finding out how much they're paid. What is it that their job description has? Doing research and then moving it backwards to be able to, because there's steps. You're gonna have to find out how much it is. You're gonna have to find out what that person does, present it to your boss, all of these things. And it gets scarier and scarier as you move forward. So the thing about setting small attainable goals is what you would do is number one, okay, this is the end goal. I want to make this a paid position. Now, the first thing would be like, do research, okay? And you would say, maybe in the month of October, I'm just going to research, and that I'm going to be dedicated to just getting the research done. And then in November, then we're going to come up with a plan, look for ways of how to approach your supervisor with it. Then the next month, research other places that the pay is similar. So essentially, however you decide to do it, breaking it down. And the reason why you do that is because as you continue to break things down little by little, what happens is you start to build your confidence, and you start to make it helps you with your progress, because you set one small goal and do it in such a way, you set it within a time limit that you know that you can achieve it. And then once you do that, you set the next small goal, and then you achieve that, and then you set the next small goal. So what you're doing as you're moving forward is you're building your confidence, you're gaining confidence in what you're doing, and you're starting to believe what you're doing. And because you are achieving these small goals, number one, what you're doing is you're learning about yourself. You're learning that maybe this aspect of it may have taken more than you thought it was going to, which is okay, because you've built in room for that. You've built in room to change. You've built in room to rebound. You've built in room to like, oh, that didn't go as well. Oh, it's taking me longer than I thought it was. But you're still on the path of achieving that goal. And the more and more you do it, what it's going to end up doing, it's going to lead me to the next slide in a minute, but it's flexing your muscles, it's flexing your confidence, it's flexing your ability. And it's similar to if you go into the weight room. When you go into the weight room, you don't go for the first time and pick up the 50 pound, right? You go and you start with like the 5 pound, the 6 pound. I don't even know if there's a 6 pound weight, but you understand what I'm saying. So you're working with those, right? The first time you pick it up, you're like, oh my gosh, and then like a month later, you're like, yeah, woo, you're like drinking, I got this, right? So then you've built up that resilience, you've built up that resistance, you've built up that weight. So then you move up to the next weight, and then you move up to the next weight. And then before you know it, you're at the 50 pound weight, but you didn't walk in lifting the 50 pound weight. You didn't walk in and be like, hey, I think this position needs to be paid. Like, what do you have as your foundation to help you get to where you need to be? So I hope that that's kind of making sense, because as you continue to do that, in terms of, that's where it will help you to, which leads to the next slide, find your voice. It's going to build up your courage. It's going to build up your confidence, because now you've spent 3-6 months doing the research, talking to other people, finding out the job description, doing all these things. So by the time it gets to the point where you can go, it's time for you to talk to your supervisor, you have a foundation laid that if the supervisor asks you questions about it, and you know that they will, because their goal is going to pepper, right? Not in a bad way, but have you really done the research? Or are you just coming in here saying, this is what I want? But if you can answer the questions, you have built up the confidence, you've built up the information, and you know what you're talking about to be able to answer confidently and say what it is you need to do, which will open up their ears. And that then leads to eventually organizational buy-in, which is what I'm going to get to next. So I hope that helped with that one particular goal. I just kind of want to take an example. I'm just spitting it off the top of my head. But in terms of what you're doing, that's the thought process. Think about it in small, think of it in steps, step by step by step. I have a playbook. It's called the Game On Playbook. It is literally a goal setting handbook, and it helps you to take the big picture and by when you want it done, and you work backwards so that you can take small steps, little by little by little by little. And what I tell people, no matter what it is, right? One of the big things that's happening, and Gina had mentioned it earlier, is people want to diversify their program, which is great. That's a huge undertaking, right? But you have to start somewhere. You have to do something. And even if you take baby steps, even if you take one small step one day out of the year, and at the end of the year, you've taken 365 steps, you are 365 steps further along than you were before. Now, those 365 steps may have only gotten you to the mailbox, but that's okay. Because now you're at least at the mailbox. Maybe it got you across the street. Maybe it didn't get you, you know, to California, but you're further along than you were a year ago, and you cannot discount that. You cannot discount that. You have to celebrate your small wins to help you keep going, to propel you to the next step, to the next level where you want to go. So one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to, I had a conversation with my supervisor, and I was like, you know, I really feel like my colleagues do not understand the value of my position, and they don't understand the value of what the volunteers do for the organization. They're often overlooked, or they just treat them like just the volunteers. And so I'm having this conversation with my supervisor. Now, mind you, this was after I had been in the position for about 3 or 4 years, and we had had a lot of little small wins. We had small win after small win, and we were doing this, 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 and making this accomplishment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I had, at that point, I had built up enough confidence to go to my supervisor and be like, you know, I would really like your help, because people really just don't understand the value of what the volunteers do. So she shoots back to me, oh, well, this is beautiful. You know, I have a challenge for you. Let's make this an educational moment. Would you like to present in front of the staff and tell them about the value that the volunteers bring, and let them know what exactly that you do and the huge value that the volunteers bring to the center? And my answer was like, no, I'm not trying to stand in front of all of my staff members, like colleagues, to tell them, can't you just do it? And she was like, no. She was like, if this is something that you are feeling, the onus is on you to take responsibility for it, and here's an opportunity for you to do it. Fine. Okay. So I agreed, and I did it. So this leads me to the obtaining institutional buy-in. So the funny thing is I found this picture, and it reminded me of the first time that I had to stand up in front of the staff and tell them about what the volunteers did. And look, I found the picture. It's almost exactly the same. I promise you that was not planned. But I was able to stand up in front of the staff and tell them, these are all the different positions that our volunteers fill. This is the impact that they've had last year. These are the things that they do. This is what we do. These are the people that we serve. This is how it, these are the departments that use volunteers to help under the other departments that don't use. It was like about maybe a 30-minute presentation. And what ended up happening when it was all over is that people came up to me and they were like, Nicole, I had no idea. This is so great. I had no idea that our volunteers did that. I had no idea that how impactful our volunteers were. And half of me was like, really? But then the other half of me was, when I came into the position, I myself didn't even know, because I didn't come into this being a volunteer manager before. I came in from the marketing department, and I was like, oh yeah, volunteer management. Yeah, you just have to be organized. I got this. That's a whole nother story. I had no idea what I was getting into, but that's okay. It's okay. The point is, if I was running the department now and I didn't know, maybe they didn't know. That was the very, very first step into institutional buy-in. It was the shift in my organization that people started looking at the volunteers differently. They started having a, not that they were disrespectful before, but it was just kind of like they just weren't aware. But it's like, because I had brought it to their attention, they were now more aware. And eventually, the different departments actually started having more requests for volunteers to help them in their departments. And as of the last volunteer appreciation month that we had, when I put out a call to everybody in the organization to help me celebrate our volunteers, we had, I think it was 7 or 8 different departments go out of their way to do something to make sure that the volunteers felt appreciated, as opposed to the first time I did it and it was practically crickets. So again, small steps, little things. You have to have the courage to step out. You have to be ready to do it. Don't complain, and then have the opportunity and then shy back. I'm just saying, but it's just a way of thinking. It's a way to kind of think about it. It's a way to help you to move forward. But again, it all starts by setting those small goals, because if I hadn't had those small wins, win after win after win after, not big wins, little ones, win after win after, if I didn't have that, I would have never had the confidence to say something to my supervisor, who would have never challenged me to go to another level, which would have not ever got us to the institutional buy-in where we are now. Do we still have a long way to go? Yes, not where I would like us to be, but we're a lot further than where we were. And that just came from that resilience of every time that something happened, instead of it penetrating and hurting me and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, they did it again. Using that as fuel to be able to turn it around and use it as an educational opportunity. Okay, so how many of you all, like, is anybody feeling like this, like right now, right? It's 6 months. We've been in quarantine, we've been in lockdown, we've been in different, and if you're like me, I'm in the performing arts. Our theater shut down in March and is not probably scheduled to open until after January. And my task has been able to, is to keep our volunteers engaged during that time. Hoo-wee! Let me tell you, okay? Yes, this is a very real part of life in general, not only just being a manager of volunteers, but just life in general. You are frustrated, you're tired, you're over it, you've gone to another meeting, they've overlooked you, they didn't even invite you to the meeting, they're making decisions that literally directly affect the volunteers, they didn't even think about bringing you in, and you were just like so over it. You're just like, I'm so over it. What am I doing? Why am I doing this? And that brings me to my point. It is so important for you to understand and know your why. That is a huge part of resilience, because that why is going to help you pull out of your funk, so to speak, right? Because you know it, we've all had it, where you're just like, why am I doing this? When a volunteer mouths off at you, or goes and reports you to your supervisor, and you're just like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why? And then you answer that why, either be it the mission of the organization, or it's just why you do what you do, because you love to serve the people that you're serving. You love managing volunteers and uplifting them and inspiring them and thanking them for the job that they're doing to help the organization serve the community in the way that they need to be served, whatever it is. But these are the days that the why is so, so important, because when the days that you want to give up, because you're going to want to, on the days where you're super frustrated and you're just like, I don't want to deal with this anymore, that is when it's going to surface, and that's going to be kind of like your ray of light, your ray of hope, of why you're doing what you're doing to help keep you move forward. So that's part of it, right? Making the decision to keep moving forward. To me, this goes hand in hand with your support system. Hand in hand with the support system, because you can make the decision to want to move forward, but who is in your corner to help you move forward when you are at that point where you are frustrated and you don't want to hear about it? And if somebody says volunteer, and you're like, I don't want to hear the word, you're grounded, you're out, I don't want to hear it. So leading me to my next poll question, let's see. How many of you, or do you have a strong professional support network? I don't see the poll. Yeah, there it is. Woohoo! Yes. Do you have a strong professional network? And this is just professional for right now. I'm going to tell you why, but your strong professional network. Okay. I think almost everybody has voted who is going to vote. Okay. Look at that. That is beautiful. Sure do. And then so we're like right kind of like at 50-50. The 50 is like yes, and the other half is like well or no. Cool. Okay. Let me see. All right. So I ask you that because I ask you who is in your corner. Somebody like in your professional network, because as volunteer managers, right, depending on if you do have like a personal network, be it a significant other, your parents, friends, whatever, and you go home and you're talking about everything that happened, and like, oh my gosh, this volunteer did this, and oh my gosh, I read the feedback from the survey, and in the suggestion box, I can't believe it, right? And then they're sitting there and they're listening, and then they're like, well, why don't you just like change jobs if you don't like it? And you're like, no, that's not what I'm trying to say. And it was funny because when I was a professional cheerleader, it was the same thing. We would talk about, oh, the people are so unorganized and this and that and this and that. And then like, well, why'd you just quit the team? And you're like, take those words back. Never say such a thing, because we love what we do, right? We absolutely love what we do. And sometimes we don't need somebody to encourage us to quit. We just need somebody to understand what we are going through and then can even help. So I love the scenario of a boxing ring, right? So if you haven't seen boxing, hopefully everybody has, but if you haven't, you have two fighters there in the ring, and they go in and they ring the bell, they come out and they're fighting, woo, yeah, woo, they're doing all this thing, their feet are jabbing, it's really cool because they're fresh. It's fresh. It's like those people who just got into volunteer management, right? Fresh. They're like, yes, we're taking out the world. Bam. Okay, bell rings. You go back, you sit. Cool. Same thing. As you get further into the rounds, maybe now you're in the 4th round or the 5th round, it's getting a little tiring. It's getting a little harder. It's getting a little frustrating, right? So they ring the bell, you go back and you sit in the corner. What happens when you're sitting in that chair, right? The coach comes out. The coach is giving you guidance. The coach is like, the beautiful thing about the coach, which I equate to a mentor, like your professional mentor, is they are not in the ring. They're not getting the hits and the blows. They can take I would say an unbiased, but that's not the word I'm looking for, but you know what I'm talking about. They're separated from it. So they can look at everything and be like, okay, this is where you're a little bit weaker. When they jab left, you need to move right a little bit faster because that's where they're coming at you. Or, when this person does this, this is when you take advantage of that because they're a little weaker on their slower side. And they're standing outside of the ring and they can tell you what's going on because they're not in it, right? So you have the coach giving them guidance, and the coach knows you because they're working with you, and they're like, remember that that exercise that we did where you did this and this and this, that's the time to bring this out and use that because that's going to be to your advantage. So just coaching. Then you have the hype team where all they're doing is like, yeah, baby, you, yeah. And they're just like, you are awesome. You are amazing. You are amazing. Yeah, baby, you got this. That's all they're doing. They're just hyping them up. Yeah, you do this. They could be getting the crap beat out of them. But in that corner, their hype group is like, you are this, you got this, you are this, da, da, da. And then you have like the person giving them water, giving them sustenance and giving them water and replenishing them and getting them, ready to go back out. All of these people, it takes like this team, it takes a village, right, to help this person. And then they get back up and they go back in. They have been motivated. They have been rejuvenated. Their team was there for them when they were down to encourage them to get back in the ring. And then eventually, because I'm a total optimist, they eventually win. But what if that team of people were like, well, you might well just call it quits because you ain't cut out for that. Like, you don't need that. You need somebody who's going to be there to encourage you, especially if you know and you are passionate and this is what you are called and supposed to be doing where you're doing it. You need to be surrounded by like-minded people who can encourage you to get back in the ring, so to speak. So all of this, so for those of you who are not connected with a professional network within volunteer management, I want to throw some things out to you. It's extremely important to stay connected. There are a gazillion ways. I had no idea. This is stuff that I wish I had my first, second, and third year into managing volunteers, because there were so many times I was just like, oh my gosh, I am a terrible manager. Why did this happen? And then later on, as I started to connect with colleagues, they're like, girl, please, that happens all the time. Yeah, that happened to me yesterday. And I'm like, really, girl, you're not a bad manager. That's just the nature of the, oh, okay. Made me feel a little bit better about myself. There's all sorts of ways to stay connected. Thank goodness for Google. You can find them just about anywhere. So there's all sorts of different types of associations, just like SAVMA. And there's Alive, There's Dovias all over the place. There's private Facebook groups and Facebook pages. If you just go into Facebook and put like volunteer management, you will see a slew of them. Just go join, 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 join. And you will be surprised the amount of people who are going through the same thing you are going through. And I mean, I challenge you to put a question in there that you think this has only happened to you. And you're gonna get like 30 responses and be like, oh girl, yeah, that happened to me yesterday. That happened to me last week. That happened to me 2 years ago. That's gonna happen to me, going to happen to me tomorrow. Just kidding, but you get the point. There's like volunteer engagement professional Facebook groups and pages. There's podcasts, there's blogs, there's e-journals. Even Alive has a mentorship program that you can reach out and mentor somebody who is coming up in the ranks, and even find a mentor who, like, if you've been in the biz maybe 5 or 10 years, you can find somebody who's been in it 15 or 20 years to help get you to the next to the next level, so that you don't have to plateau, because the challenges are going to be different. So on here, the page that you're seeing, all the highlights are the things that I have done and I have created to connect. I've created from the suggestion box. That is based off of what I had to do to learn after like survey. I don't know how many of you all do surveys of your volunteers, like do an annual survey. I used to get the annual survey and pull it out and be like, yeah, I'm gonna read about what the volunteers think about my program. And then by the time I was done, I was crying because I was like, I'm a horrible person. They all hate me, you know. So it was suggestions that they had put in that I had to learn and grow from. Some of them were true, and I had to take it and learn to grow from it. Some of it, it was just like, well, if 1 out of 100 people say it, you're probably okay. Just different things, learning from the feedback that you get. So I started that particular podcast. I'll send you a link to it if you ever want to, you know, listen to it and jump in. I ask you to do so. Follow me, it'll be great. But there's other podcasts that are out there as well. I write a blog. It's called Route 1319, because a desire fulfilled is sweet to the soul. And it's like, I try to write about things that are all along the journey of you achieving whatever your end goal is, the ups and downs, celebrating the great things, even celebrating the things that are not so great, because you will learn from the things that are challenging. You will learn from the setbacks. It's going to make you grow. It's going to make you stronger. It's going to build the resilience that you have, especially in the times that we are in right now. Resilience is a must, because we are changing constantly. Drop of a hat, at a moment's notice. Drop, drop, drop. Change, 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 change. One of the books that I wanted to recommend to you, it's called Who Moved My Cheese. I feel like a lot of people, I don't know if you guys can see this, but a lot of people I feel like have already read it, but it's a really good read to go back and reread around this time with everything, because we don't know what volunteer management is going to look like in 3, 6, 9 months, especially in the performing arts. We don't, I mean, it's really crazy for us, but we know change is inevitable. How are we going to respond to it? How are we going to be resilient? We're going to change with it, because that's the only thing that's going to help us to continue to move forward. So I put a link to that. I'm sending you those links too, so don't worry about it. I'm sending you a link to that. But staying connected is so important. And to me, staying connected and having that support system and making the decision to continue to move forward go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other, because you could be down and frustrated and be like, okay, yes, I want to move forward, but you may just not even have the strength to do it. And I'm sure, or maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but there's a lot of like times you'll see, like, especially like in the Olympics, and there's a runner, you know, running, and they're going to the finish line, and he pulls a hamstring and he ends up like hitting the floor, and a runner comes behind him and another runner comes behind him, and one picks up one arm and one picks up the other arm, and then they walk him together to the finish line, because that's what this is all about, getting to the finish line together. And my the philosophy at my organization is Ubuntu, meaning I am because we are. We have to help each other, because when my weaknesses could be your strengths could be my weaknesses, and when I'm having a great day, I can help pull you up, and vice versa. So that is a huge, huge, huge part to me to resilience, is community. So just recapping, right? Set small attainable goals, because that is going to build your confidence. It's going to build your resilience on smaller levels, so that when the larger things come, you're ready for it. It's going to help you find your voice, which will eventually help you get institutional buy-in. It's going to help you overcome the urge to give up as well as help you to build a strong support system. So this is the other definition that was in the first poll, the other part of resilience, right? The capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness, the ability of a substance or object or person or manager of volunteers to spring back into shape. Elasticity. I just put this lady here because she just looks fierce, and she just looks like you can throw at me whatever it is, but I will survive. I'm going to make this. I'm not going down without a fight. And talking about having that support system, I just want to let you all know that I am your volunteer leader. I am here for you. I am that person in the corner. I am your hype person. Yes, girl, you got it. You could do this. Yes, yes, homie, you could do it. You're in this. You got it. You are smart. You are resilient. You're thoughtful. You are seen. You are heard. All of these things. I'm that person look, I got my palms right here. Okay? I take it seriously, to really encourage everybody, to encourage each other to make it to the end. And so part of that, and that's kind of where the journal comes into play. That is why I created to journal, so that even though, you may not have the benefit of the pom-poms, you may not want to hear the pom-poms. You might hear pom-poms and like have a visceral reaction, be like, I don't want to hear all that stuff in my face. But the whole point is that is what the journal, what Gina had mentioned. Yes, it's called 101 Affirmations for Volunteer Administrators. And basically it's just a notebook. I don't know if you can see, but it's just an empty notebook, but on every other page, it's affirmations. Literally, you are heard, you are worthwhile, you are respected, you are a remarkable leader, you are creative, you are a visionary. All of those things that, if you're like me, you wish like you were walking down the hallway at your job and you had paparazzi and the red carpet, and you're just walking in there like, you are awesome, and you are awesome, and you are this, and you're like, me, oh my God. Yes, you are phenomenal, you are awesome. And that is why I created the journal, to encourage you, especially when you go into a meeting and they yet again didn't bring something up that directly affects the volunteers, to give you the courage to find your voice, to stand up, well, not literally stand up, but to speak up and advocate for yourself and advocate for the volunteers. So I am just extremely passionate about that. I'm not sure if you can tell, but that's the whole thing about that. And I believe that is what builds resiliency, right? Not only individual, but it is a group thing, and we have to be there for each other so that we can all rise and grow together. So with that being said, this is the information that if you want to reach me, you can. And I just want to open it up to any questions. I'll put that screen back in a minute. I know I went through it really quick, but I wanted to just kind of get to any questions just in case anybody had any. Were there any questions in the chat?
Actually, there were.
Okay.
I'm scrolling back up to the beginning.
About how much time do we have? Because I'm trying to figure out. Are we good on time?
You have 45 minutes.
Oh.
We have plenty of time. And if we end early, we end early.
Okay, sounds good.
People are wanting to know, when you talked about quantifying and getting paid as a volunteer manager, how you did that quantification, whether it was money or whether it was mission-driven impact, and how long did it take?
So I didn't have to do it, because in my organization, it was already a paid position. I was just using the example of the person who said that was their goal, that they wanted to try and get their position or that volunteer coordinator position within their organization. I was just giving kind of an example of how to go about it. Yeah.
Let me see. Brittany says, I'm a firm believer that if we can do this work, we can do anything.
Yes, that that picture of the lady where she's like this and she has the bandana. Yes, we can do it.
We can do it. I'm going through a lot of the comments and they're just, thank you for your passion. I really needed this encouragement. Where do you get your energy and support? Angela's asking.
That is such a great question. My why is where it comes from. I have to be honest, because I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And I was in several different industries before I came into managing volunteers. And each one of those industries tapped into one part of who I was, but volunteer management taps into every part of who I am. And I've never been a part of an industry that has ever been like that. And I love what I do. And so it encourages me. And I'm one of those people who gets up every day and can say that they love their job. Is it easy? No, because if that was the case, everybody would be doing it. And we know not everybody can do what we do. But it was like, it's like I found a job. It's almost like it was made for me. It was like a match made in heaven. And so even as much as I love it, there are those days where I'm just like, why am I sure that I'm really, am I sure? What am I doing? But then when I get down to my why, part of my why is my daughter. Because like I mentioned before, I'm a single mom, have been for 23 years. And I have a person that is relying on me that I cannot let down. So that is definitely part of my why. My profession, as far as my personal, I'm very thrilled and excited because I have now an amazing, amazing man in my life. I'm recently engaged, and he's really, really great about listening to everything that I'm like venting about. But he's also really good about like, well, this is, you know, and not encouraging me to quit and get another job. So between him on the personal side and my brother is amazing too. I have a really great like family support system, but I've in the last year or two, I've really found like my what I did is our Performing Arts Center is in Miami, and there's a Performing Arts Center in Broward, which is a 30-minute drive. It's literally like right up the street. And one day I just reached out to the manager of volunteers at that Performing Arts Center and was like, hi, I would just love to network with you. And, you know, hi, like that's all I could ask because I had no idea what I was doing. I came from the marketing department. I didn't know what I was doing. Not that people in marketing are not capable. That's not what I was trying to say. But in terms of understanding the entire role of what I was getting into, and she was gracious. She was like, yes, absolutely. Now she is literally one of my beloved best friends, and she's become now a personal friend. But it started with that professional network connection. And then I joined, I became a member of Alive. And whoa, finding all sorts of people who are doing what I'm doing, who understood what I was talking about when I walked into the room. Because I don't know if a lot of you all will go to like networking events, because I used to go to a lot of networking events, and you know, you're standing there, and you know, me, I have like my water in a cup so that people think I'm drinking because I just don't want to be bothered. But that's beside the point. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, oh, you're networking. Oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a PR manager, and I'm the director of marketing, and I'm da da da. And well, what do you do? I am a volunteer manager. Oh, you work for free? No. I manage volunteers. Oh, okay. So it's back to the director of, you know, and you're just like, I mean, I count. But people, they just don't know. So it was so great to be in the presence of other people who got it. Who, if I said, hey, I have to send out the volunteer survey, they all knew exactly what I was talking about and felt my pain. Or just the challenges that you would have to have, and how do you have difficult conversations with people who are donating their time and all of these things, because when you're talking to somebody, even if they're a manager, but in like if they're the manager of PR, the conversation that they have with somebody is going to be completely different than somebody who's donating their time. That if you don't handle it just right, your staff could walk out the door. A PR director could have that same conversation. That person needs a job. The chances of them walking out the door aren't as high. So understanding those little things. And then the last thing that I did is because as performing arts theater managers, we have like a special sets of challenges that you're only going to find in the performing arts. And what I did is I reached out to my CEO and I asked him, I was like, do you have a list of all the performing arts centers? Because usually all the heads of whatever industry, they have a conference and they meet. And I was like, can I just have that list? Because I'm going to reach out to every volunteer manager from all of the different performing arts centers. And he's like, I'll do you better. He was like, I'll just email all my colleagues and ask them to send me their performing arts manager's name. I mean, the volunteer manager's name. And I was like, really? Beautiful. So now once a month we meet, and they are like a huge source for me in terms of how did you get buy-in to do this particular event? My boss isn't really crazy about it. How'd you get your boss to do it? Oh, okay, cool. Let me try it. Oh my gosh, guess what? It worked. We're doing it now too. And being able to relate in that way. I know I'm sorry, it was a very, very long-winded answer to your question, but those are the different ways that I've been able to remain energized and been able to remain hopeful, because when it got to a point where I thought I was banging my head up on the wall, I wanted to put my head down on the computer, I was able to reach out to my colleagues, and it was like the dose of inspiration and the dose of encouragement that I needed to go back and advocate, and it's worked out really well.
Well, we do have another question.
Okay.
But I want to sort of top your question off about SAVMA, because one of the ways to get better connected into SAVMA and people who do what you do or what I do is, and I only found this out because somebody asked me to be on a committee and I went, well, okay.
Yeah.
And when you meet with a committee, it's a small group that's geared in that same direction, and there's the opportunity, to form those kind of links.
Yeah.
So from a SAVMA, perspective, if you're a member, get yourself on a committee. It is a great way to make those links. So commercial over.
I know, I 100% agree. When I joined Alive as a member, I didn't really experience those connections until I joined a committee. And then it was like, whoa, I'm telling you, get plugged in, however it is, however you need to do it. Even if it's a matter of going on LinkedIn and just typing in manager of volunteers or volunteer manager, and then connecting with every last one of them, and then just following them to see what people are doing. And then if you have a question, reaching out to them. That's the introvert way, right? That's the way to do it, where you can connect with people and don't have to talk to them, because that's me. I like to connect in silent and reach out when I have to. But the important thing is connect. However you need to do it. Do not go through it alone. Don't go through it alone. There is a wealth and a world of people who are out there who are willing to help. You just have to ask. There's somebody in my organization, she says it all the time. She was like, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. You got to ask. Put the ask out there, and you will see the amount of people who are really willing and ready to come and help and support you.
Well, and the next question, Nicole, maybe some of those answers, besides from you, can come in the chat, because Linda's asking, do you have some suggestions for volunteer recognition during this pandemic lockdown? So you'll have suggestions, but I bet there are other people that can put suggestions into this chat. And we're going to send the chat to everybody after the program. So
yes,
you don't have to take notes.
Exactly. Yes. And so, that's so beautiful. It's funny that you should ask that. Let me tell you a story. So for performing arts theaters, our season goes from October 1st through September 30th. So we are coming to the end of our fiscal year, and we always do a volunteer appreciation event for our volunteers. And so obviously this year it's going to be a little bit different because we can't do it in the ballroom with a big dinner like we normally do. And there's an idea that I had that I wasn't sure if it was going to go over well. And in our monthly Performing Arts Center volunteer manager group, one of the volunteer managers, who by the way is probably like 10 years younger than me, and it's her first year in managing volunteers. And I say that to be like, be open to fresh and be open to young, be open to everything, because you just never know where these ideas are going to come from. So she explained what she was trying to do, and we were like, oh my gosh, how did you get them to do it? She's like, I created a proposal. We were like, oh my gosh, will you share that proposal with us? She shared the proposal, took the proposal, ran it by my supervisor loved it. Woo! There you go. So what we're ending up doing is we are going to do like a drive-through situation where we have a valet ramp. The volunteers are going to drive up. We're still working out all of the details of it, but essentially they're going to drive by. We're going to give them a thank you gift, give them a wave, have a big thing that says thank you, and that's going to be part of what we're doing. But in terms of recognition, there's all sorts of things. There's volunteer pins. There's just so many other things. I could be here all day. But I love Diane's suggestion just for the point of what we're talking about. I challenge people, put what you have done to recognize your volunteers. And the person who asked that question, you're going to walk out of here with like 50 or 60. I'm an optimist. Okay. But you're going to walk out with ideas that you didn't have had you not even attended this, because this is your community. We are here to help you. So yes, anything that you have, put it in the chat. Let's help her out, or him, because I'm not sure who put it in there. Okay.
We have one comment about that in the chat from Tori, and she said they had a beautiful drive-through appreciation with raspados, cupcakes. Everyone received a t-shirt and a gift card. It was delightful and appreciated both by the staff and the volunteers. That was during volunteer week. Yeah. And Angela said, I took a video on my phone of staff saying thank you. Yep. Used a free software to edit it and send it to people. So, sorry, somebody has to leave. So,
okay. Well, Mitch, should we do the giveaway really quick? And then that way
we have 24 people still online.
24, okay. So I am going to choose number 23 in honor of my daughter. Who is our 23rd person?
Okay, I'm counting down the people as they checked in. 1, 2, 3. So we have Nicole, Gina. Oops, I can't do that. I have
Boys and Girls Club. Boys and Girls Club is 23.
Oh, good. I'm glad you're way ahead of me. Go ahead, Gina. 23, Boys and Girls Club. Wonderful.
Are you there, Boys and Girls Club? I don't know if they're there.
Give us a chat. Well, then go to the next one, because your daughter's going to turn 24.
Or eventually.
Marcy? Marcy, you're number 24.
Marcella.
Marcella.
Okay, Marcella, we will get your...
Where are you from, Marcella?
Yay! Congratulations!
I'm living in Calgary, in Canada.
Canada, sweet.
Fabulous. We will get your information and get one out to you. Congratulations. Thank you for joining us
Awesome.
all the way from Canada.
Thank you.
And we thank you, Nicole, for your energy. I'm an introvert, so I'm exhausted.
You have no idea. Like, you guys have no idea. Talking about my passion excites me, but in a room, you won't even know I'm in there, because I'm like, it's talking in front of, like, these Zoom meetings have been the best, because it's like I don't have to really like actually talk to people. It stresses me out. But
I appreciate your energy and your perseverance and your resilience. So
well, thank you
so much. Have a good evening and give your fiance a kiss.
I
Thank you,
will.
everyone, for joining us. It's been delightful. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.